Good afternoon. This is the Pat Morrison Show. I'm Alex Cohen filling in today, and now we will take a look at hunting in California, which could see some big changes. You might have heard about the recent controversy raised by Dan Richards. He's president of the California Fish and Game Commission. He went hunting in Idaho, where he used dogs to track down a mountain lion, which he shot and killed. In response to that, State Senators Ted Lieu and Darrell Steinberg introduced legislation which would ban the use of hounds when hunting bears and bobcats in California. How do you feel about this bill? Give us a call at 866-893-KPCC. You can also weigh in on the Pat Morrison page at kpcc.org. And for this discussion and what I imagine will likely be a debate, we are joined here in the studio by Wayne Pacelli. He's president and CEO of the Humane Society of the United States. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Pacelli.
Thank you.
We also have on the line Rob Sexton. He is Senior Vice President of the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance. And before we launch into the debate, if we could find out just a little bit about how this works. Mr. Sexton, can you tell us what types of dogs you use to hunt bears and bobcats, and how exactly are these dogs used?
Well, I'm not actually a houndsman myself, but the folks who hunt bears with dogs are using a hound dog, and they're going after the bear, for their scent.
And, Mr. Pacelli, what's the argument here? Why shouldn't hounds be allowed to be used in the hunt?
Well, California already banned the trophy hunting of mountain lions, and the predominant means of tracking down and shooting lions is to use dogs. So the people of California have already weighed in on this twice. And the argument is that it's unfair, it's inhumane, it's unsporting. The dogs typically have radio transmitters on their collars. The hunter has a high-tech sort of gadget that is a directional antenna. The dogs chase the bear for sometimes miles. Sometimes the bears turn and fight the dog, so it becomes an animal fighting situation. And eventually the bear climbs a tree, and then the hunter, using his directional antenna and the telemetry collar of the dogs, finding the dogs because of the telemetry collar, shoots the animal out of a tree. It's the moral and sporting equivalent of shooting a bear in a cage at a zoo. And you're not allowed to do this in California with deer or elk or other big game animals, so to speak. And it shouldn't be permitted here. 83%, according to a survey conducted by Lake Research, of Californians oppose this activity. Not 50%, not 55%, 83%. There's like 10% of the people in the state who support this practice.
Mr. Sexton, your response, why should hounds be allowed in hunting here in California?
Well, hounds, in terms of their effectiveness, is a very effective way to control bear numbers. But the truth is, it's everything sporting about it. The telemetry collars that Mr. Pacelli talks about are actually used to find dogs to prevent them from being lost, and they're not used for the hunt themselves. That's just rhetoric. The real truth of it is, most things you can say about hunting with dogs in general would apply to hunting for bears, and that's really what this gets down to. There's nothing in this debate that you couldn't also say about hunting raccoons, for example, or even pursuing pheasant. I mean, the dogs will pursue a bird, and I don't hear anyone talking about trying to ban pheasant hunting. And the reason for that is because Mr. Pacelli and his organization understand that they couldn't sell that in California. So they want to start with something that has a relatively few amount of hunters comparatively, and then see if they can get that done. And several years back, 2005, the legislature dealt with this issue and didn't pass legislation to ban bear hunting with hounds, or what he originally started with, which was to ban all hunting with hounds.
Mr. Pacelli, can I respond?
Sure. Well, the difference, of course, between pheasants is that pheasants can fly, and bears can't. When they get up in a tree, they're on a tree limb, and somebody walks up to the base of the tree and shoots the animal. And, of course, with bears and certainly with bobcats, which is the other species mentioned in this bill, most people are not eating them. These are trophy hunts. You know, there's a difference between shooting an animal like a deer and consuming the meat. But between that and shooting an animal for a trophy after the animal has been cornered in a tree. And the notion that somehow the telemetry collars are used just to retrieve the dogs is absurd. All you need to do is look at many of the hunting videos online or purchase any of them, as we at the Humane Society of the United States have, and you see that it's a high-tech hunt using the gadgetry before the killing takes place as well as after the killing takes place.
Listeners, we'd love to get your opinion on this. The number to call is 866-893-KPCC. Let's take a call coming in from Rancho Cucamonga. Sam, you're on the line. Sam?
Yes, hello?
Hi there. You wanted to weigh in on this?
Hi, yes. I just had a comment. I agree with what the gentleman was saying from the Humane Society, and I do believe we should protect our natural wildlife. However, I feel that it's kind of useless to ban the use of hounds. It doesn't make sense to me because the whole idea by having a dog, especially a hound like that, would be to hunt. So I'm kind of confused. I just wanted to know more about that.
Thank you, Sam. And actually, you're echoing a comment that was left on our website by a gentleman named Lou who said, you know what's more inhumane to dogs? Carrying them around in a purse in West L.A. Did we forget why mankind bred dogs in the first place? To herd animals or to hunt and kill them? Are we going to emasculate dogs like we do with men in this country? I guarantee you, if dogs could talk and you gave them a choice between wearing pink sweaters or fighting a bear, they'd pick the bear. Wayne Pacelli, what's your response to this? It's in the dog's nature.
I don't think this person knows dogs. I think being carried around in a purse is a heck of a lot better than chasing a bear who can turn and fight and maul the dogs. But the point is that it's an enterprise that is unnecessary in this day and age. It's unsporting. States like Colorado, Montana, Oregon, Washington have forbidden this practice by either voter referendum or just by the hunting community that wants to observe some ethical standard. You can successfully hunt bears without using dogs, and trapping them in a tree after a long chase and after the animals fight one another is inhumane, and it's unsporting, and it defies kind of common sense about how we should be treating animals.
Ron Sexton of the Sportsmen Alliance, what's your response to that? That, hey, we're not saying that you can't hunt the bear, but just do so without the dogs.
Well, I mean, first off, the hunting with dogs for most of these guys we're talking about, it's about the chase itself. And many times they don't even shoot the bear. Having the bear in the tree gives them a chance to identify exactly what the target is they're looking at. And most times they let the bear go. And so, it's not, we're not talking apples to apples. Now, when Mr. Pacelli talks about the dog would rather be in a purse, it's obvious he hasn't been on a hunt with hunting dogs. That's what these dogs are bred for. It's what they enjoy. And what he's really trying to do is capitalize on the emotional side of the issue for folks who haven't practiced it. Hunting with dogs is something that's been around for centuries. We use them to hunt bears. They're even used today to even do research in California on mountain lions, even though they don't shoot the mountain lions. So there's nothing at all wrong with it, but he is trying to paint hunters into a corner and to portray this one in a particularly bad light, when the truth is his overall agenda would be to take away all of our hunting rights, and we have proof of that.
An interesting point is made by a listener under the name California Houndsman, posting on the Pat Morrison page at kpcc.org. He lists a number of points that is against this proposed legislation, and one of them is that hound hunting is a highly effective form of wildlife management. He says the close proximity of a tree bear allows the animal's age and sex to be determined before any attempt to harvest is made. It also allows a houndsman to determine if a female is pregnant, nursing, or has offspring so that she can be left unharmed.
Yeah, it's completely untrue. Just, nonsense rhetoric from the houndsman community. It's very difficult to size a bear or determine the sex when the animal is 60 feet or 75 feet up in a tree. And any responsible hunter will tell you that that is the case. This notion that somehow they're morphing this inhumane and unsporting hunt into some sort of, catch and release program is demonstrably false. And again, I just want to remind people, this issue has been on the ballot in Washington and Oregon, the other two Pacific Coast states, with bear hunting. Voters banned this practice, just like voters banned this same method of hunting for mountain lions here in the state twice. There were two voter initiatives. One was an initiative, the other was a referendum to ban lion hunting, and voters approved it both times.
Let's hear from a hunter here in Southern California. Natasha in Santa Clarita, thanks for calling in.
I'm really glad to hear this being brought up on NPR, and I'm glad for our listening audience to be able to hear both sides, and I'm thankful for the guest calling in from Ohio. I hunt bobcats with dogs myself in the area right here around outside of Los Angeles, and I want to make sure that people understand that, especially in the case of bears, this population is managed by the Department of Fish and Game, and if you look at the bear studies, the bear population has increased fourfold in the last 20 years, and every Fish and Game report states that the use of hounds is a useful management tool for them, and I just think that for our citizens in San Bernardino and areas where there is bear populations, if hounds are not used to manage this, there could be a real overflow, and it's not going to be just mountain lions catching cats. It's going to be bears coming on your back porch.
Well, and just earlier this week in La Crescenta, there was actually a bear who got so smart about trash day. He actually knew that Tuesdays were trash day. This is when he would come out. They got him with the tranquilizer, we should mention, not with hounds. But Wayne Pacelli, your response.
Rob Sexton from the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance also defends bear baiting, which is the other practice that's commonly used in some states. It's forbidden here in California, presumably.
Well, let's stick with the hounds for a moment. Just population control.
Sure. Well, but the point is on bear baiting, these guys support the idea of putting trash out for bears to habituate bears to human food sources.
Let's just stick with this particular bill.
Okay.
The concern that this listener said is that, look, here in California, these animals are coming into residential areas
but that's
and they
the
could
point.
harm
It's
humans.
because of food. It's because of food that bears interact with people more so than others. But it's just the gas molecule theory. If you have thousands of bears, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 bears in the state, and you've got 38 million people, they're going to run into each other every once in a while. The notion that somehow you need hound hunting, even though you have states like Montana, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, that manage, so to speak, their bear populations in the absence of hound hunting, puts the lie to the whole travesty of the argument. There's nothing scientific about chasing bears with packs of hounds or chasing bobcats with packs of hounds. The state has no idea how many bears there are. The state has no idea how many bobcats there are. What sort of scientific wildlife management is occurring when you don't even have a target goal for the kill or the total number of animals in the population? This is just rhetoric from the hunting lobby trying to obfuscate the issue when it's really an inhumane, unsporting, barbaric practice that 83% of Californians want to see outlawed.
We'll have to wrap this up soon, but Mr. Sexton, I would like to give you one quick chance to respond, and I would also like to ask you, if this bill does become law, do you think that hunters will actually stop using hounds, or will they just try to go underground, so to speak?
Well, no, I don't think hunters are going to break the law, but I think they're going to fight this bill with everything they've got, because just because Mr. Pacelli uses adjectives like barbaric doesn't make it so. The truth is, it's a highly sporting form of hunting, and it's practiced in 19 states, which is more than 60% of the states that allow bear hunting in the United States. And there has to be a point in this discussion in which we ask what the motive is, and his motive is about banning all hunting, and this is just one more step, and that is absolutely something you can prove from his past campaigns and also the things that he said in California. Hunting itself with for bears using hounds is entirely sporting. They actually kill less than their quota every single year, which is proof that they pass on shots because they're able to identify the bears that they're looking at. And just saying it's not true when you know for a fact that Wayne Pacelli has never been out behind hounds to know what he's talking about doesn't make it true.
Let's take a call. Kevin calling in from Hollywood. Kevin, your thoughts on this?
Yes. I have quite a couple things to say here. Now, I am not an environmentalist, but I want to say that, okay, so they say it's a sport, but see, it's not a sport because, like, the bears are not playing. They don't want to be in this game. It's just imposed on them. Secondly, now, I understand hunting for meat, but hunting just for trophies, I mean, you have a gun and you shoot the thing, that's not much of a fight. Now, I don't condone this, but what if hunters have a fair fight? And, for example, what would they say about hunting each other? Would that be ethical? Would that be humane?
Kevin, thank you for your call. Ron Sexton, what's your thoughts?
Well,
hunters hunting each other. It sounds very Hunger Games to me.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And I don't think we're going to start talking about murdering human beings and comparing it with hunting animals. But I would say that I have actually eaten bear, and a lot of other hunters have too, and this notion that you can blur the idea that, I only hunt for food, but it was not for fun, which is ridiculous.
What about hunting with dogs? What about hunting deer?
Excuse me, I'm talking.
What about hunting deer with hounds? Do you support that, Rob?
Wayne, let's let Ron finish.
I only hunt for food, or I only hunt for sport, or I only hunt for trophy. It's all part of the entire experience, and what Mr. Pacelli would like people to believe is that there's something wrong with taking folks hunting. Hunting has been around for centuries, and it's a part of our society.
So it's cockfighting.
Some people choose to go to McDonald's and pay someone else to put their food on the table. For us, it's part of our heritage, and just having folks try to ban it because it's not part of theirs strikes me as entirely intolerant.
Ron Sexton thinks this potential law goes too far. There's some who thinks that this legislation doesn't go far enough. We've got Addison calling in from Glendale. Addison, your thoughts on this?
I don't like the idea of hunting very much for sport. Actually, I don't like it at all. However, I do have to say at some point, you ban the dogs. At what point then do you ban the guns and ban the knives and just expect hunters to go out hunting bears with their bare hands?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, here's the reality. We have all sorts of rules in hunting that many responsible hunters, not like the folks at the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance who defend polar bear hunting, defend captive hunting, defend bear baiting. They defend everything. I've never seen a form of hunting that the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance doesn't support. But there are rules against hunting deer with dogs, elk with dogs. There are all sorts of rules. Here in California, we've already banned mountain lion hunting in the state because the people of the state don't think it's sporting and fair to chase lions with packs of dogs and drive them up a tree and shoot them off of a tree limb. The same issues are here. And Rob can talk about tradition. There are lots of horrible things that have been done to animals for many, many decades or even hundreds of years. It doesn't mean that it should continue. And by any fair measure of how hunting occurs, we don't use dogs for these other big game species. Californians don't support this. There's no wildlife management rationale for it. It's trophy hunting. People aren't going to feed themselves by going out to kill a bear. Rob says that the guys pass up on the shots after they chase the bears for miles and exhaust them and terrorize them. Then they pass on the shot. Well, isn't the bear going to be so happy about that? The whole thing is a hunting lobby sort of defense of every imaginable practice. Let's ask Rob if he's ever supported a ban on captive hunts.
Wayne, we've only got about a minute left, and I'd like to find out what the actual prospects of this legislation is. Do you have a sense, you mentioned how you believe that the voters are in favor about this. What about the fellow lawmakers up in Sacramento? Are there many hunters in that crowd, and where do you think that this bill might go?
Well, I'll tell you this, that if the legislature doesn't pass it, we're going to put a measure on the ballot to give voters the opportunity to decide the issue. And Rob and his friends at the Safari Club and the others can defend it all they want, and they'll probably win 2 or 3 counties in the state of California on this issue. I think lawmakers are going to favor it. 40 of them signed a letter in the Assembly, half the Assembly, to urge the ouster of Dan Richards after he shot a lion with packs of dogs on a guided hunt in Idaho. More than half the Senate was on board with that. The Senate President and Senator Ted Lieu have introduced SB 1221. I urge all listeners to contact their state senator and state assembly person, urge their support of 1221 to ban an inhumane, unsporting practice.
Thank you very much to Wayne Pacelli and to Ron Sexton. We'll have more coming up after this break with Hetty Lynn Hurdes.